Shalom WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah talk. It is a special Shabbat in synagogue this week called Shabbat HaChodesh. It tells us that Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Nisan, is starting the following week, and that Passover is coming close. But rather than talk about HaChodesh, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the weekly Torah portion, Parshat Shemini. It starts at the 8th day of the ordination ceremony of Aharon and his sons. And Nadav and Avihu, it's hard to say why exactly they decide they need to offer fire to the Lord, incense to the Lord. They run into the sacred precincts and they offer what is described as a strange fire, and fire comes from the heavens and consumes them. And it's a very difficult passage. Maybe because there's no explanation, maybe because on this great glorious day of the ordination of the priesthood, the next in line for the high priest and his brother are killed. There's two more brothers, by the way, but that doesn't really seem to help. And then Moshe comes over to Aaron and he says the following: Hu asher diber Adonai. This is what Adonai meant. Lemor, when God said, Bekrovai akadesh ve'al pnei kol ha'am akabed, that by those who are closest to me, I will be sanctified, I will be made holy, and gain glory before all the people. Vayidom Aharon, and famously, Aaron was silent. These lines from Moshe always troubled me and a lot of the commentators, as does, what does it mean, Vayidom Aharon, that he was silent or that he was settled? It doesn't seem like Moshe's words are the kind of things one would want to hear in a Shiva house. We're taught in a Shiva house we should go in and be quiet and let the mourner lead the conversation. Here Moshe comes with what could certainly be interpreted as what we would call a platitude, trying to say something nice, but what does it really mean, right? It's okay that your boys died because through them God was made holy. I don't know. Or that they were kravai, they were close to God, right? Many of us have heard the idea that when someone passes away and someone says, oh, God wanted that person to be close to him now. And maybe that's comforting to some people, but I know for others it's hard because they say, well, I'm not okay with that. I want them to be close to me. Why does God get precedence in this? And Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, our great teacher, he must be bringing some wisdom. I just can't leave it. We read the Torah on the assumption that Moshe is smart and understands people probably better than we do. So is there another way to interpret this, such that we're not left with Moshe saying that the boys were taken because they were so close and honored? And it's hard to find. Rashi's commentary is along those lines, that this was a symbol that they were even at a higher level than Moshe and Aaron, otherwise they would have been taken. Kedushat Levi Yitzhak Miberdichev uses that as an example of the higher standards expected for leaders, that just like Moses when he hits the rock, later in the book of Bamidbar, he's supposed to speak to the rock. God tells him to get water. He strikes it instead in front of all the people. And God says because he's a leader and this looked like a lack of faith, he doesn't get to go into the promised land. Pretty harsh for everything God has done for the people and quite frankly for God over the last 40 years or so. And that Kedushat Levi says this is an example like that. Time and again, commentators interpret it this way, that Moses is saying this shows the high status of the boys, and this is what quiets Aharon. But I want to offer a different interpretation today, which is that when Moses says this is what God meant when he said, through those near to me, I will show myself to be holy, that he wasn't actually talking about Nadav and Avihu at all. He was talking about Aharon, and maybe even himself, Moshe, right? Aharon is the father of these boys, Moses as their uncle, who was there all along to raise them up towards the priesthood with their father. And that he looked at him and he said, I don't have an explanation for this. I don't know why this happened. But when bad things happen, that's when those moments that test our faith, when we can turn still to God and be close to God, that is ultimately how God is sanctified. And that is especially a test for leaders and really for all of us. And at this moment, when the world is difficult to understand and troubled, and we may be looking around like, what gives? That these are the moments when we need to bring that sense of holiness into the world, when we need to act upon our faith to make the world better, to bring the values that we know are right into the world. That is the test for a leader at this time. That is ultimately Judaism's mission. We see this with Abraham. Abraham is given this blessing. You're going to be blessed, and all the peoples of the world will be blessed by you. It sounds like he's going to have great fortune, but the very next thing that happens in Genesis 12 is that there's a famine, and he goes down to Egypt, and he's got to play this sister-wife game with his wife Sarah because he feels so threatened. What kind of blessing is that? And so Pharaoh ends up taking Sarah for himself, and that happens not only once, but twice. Later in Genesis, again, it happens with Avimelech. He gets involved in wars. He's hard to tell if he's welcomed or not where he is in this supposedly promised land. It might be a promised land for his future generations, but it doesn't feel like a promised land for Abraham. That's why we say he had 10 tests of faith. Well, sometimes life is a test of faith, especially in troubled times, especially when we look at the world around us, what's going on in Israel, these hostages, the terrible toll of this war on everyone in the region, in the world, the rise of anti-Semitism here, the fact that Jews are walking around America not necessarily feeling safe. It's a terrible, terrible time. And these are the times that test us, the times to move forward with faith. And in this sense, we are all leaders. And as difficult as this is, as much as we wish these times were not what they are also the times for which we were made. They are the times that Abraham lived in, and Isaac and Jacob, and poor Joseph and his ordeal, and now Moses and Aaron and the generation of the desert, and even to us today. Judaism does not promise us that the world won't be troubled, that we won't have troubles. Even Aharon, even Moshe, with everything he did for God, life still acts like life. Tragedies still come upon us inexplicably. The question, and what Moshe is saying to Aharon and ultimately to us, is what are we going to do about it? How will we react to these troubles? Will we run away from God? Will we say, to heck with it, run away from the world? Or will we rise up to the challenge to try and express those right values, to bring more holiness into the world, to make the world better, God willing, for everyone? That is ultimately what we are called upon to do, the task of our faith. Times like these, it is particularly challenging. As we approach the 6-month mark of these hostages being held in Gaza, my heart is broken. I want to cry out and howl. I'm sure many of us do. But Vayidom Aharon. Aharon gives us a model. Not to be quiet per se, but to be settled enough to move forward with our mission, which is what Aharon continues to do. He finishes the ordination ceremony, continues to bring a sense of holiness and right and God into the world. And that too is our mission, by serving the Jewish people, by serving humanity, by trying to keep our eye on what is right, and ultimately to raise up the whole world. That is what we are called upon to do. Remember, all of us. This is what Adonai meant when he meant Bikrovai Akadesh, V'alpanei kol ha'am akabed, that by those who are close to me I will be sanctified, and I will be honored before all the people. That's our job, to be those close ones, and to help others be close as well. May we all rise to that mission. May peace come soon. May the hostages be returned home speedily. Bimhera b'yameinu in our days. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.